Cochran's cell phone subsequent to the search warrant executed at her residence. The cell phone is given to a forensic examiner and they do an electronic download of all the data on the cell phone. And these are pages from that extract.
And that was from a search warrant?
Yes.
We don't necessarily have to go through all of these. Let's just put a few up here to show where this is going.
Which one is this?
Oops, can't get anything out of that. Once again, these are text messages between the defendant
Y'all
And
can't read
her
that.
sister,
Yes.
and she's offering a contract.
Wendy Poteet was already a investor victim of the contracts, and she is,
Object to the characterization of some victim. We don't know anything about Ms. Poteet.
All right, that's a fair objection if you'll refrain from speaking of her as a victim,
yes,
please.
Your Honor.
No, that's not right. You took
Continue.
judicial notice.
Wendy Poteet was an investor, and this is reference to a contract that she is owed money on. And Ms. Cochran is advising her that she's going to be paid by certified check.
Oh, please, Natalie, come on. So y'all, the judge took judicial notice of the federal case, the federal criminal case, the Ponzi scheme case. And in that, her sister, one of them, I think it's Wendy Poteet, was listed as a victim
Once again,
This
with
is
the
a
amount that
text
she
message.
lost.
This identified, which document?
number 5.
Text message, again, between Natalie Cochran and Wendy Poteet, where Natalie is offering additional contracts for Wendy to invest in on February 18th, 2019.
Now, collectively, is there a pattern emerging here in terms of the defendant's conduct of the business?
Object to this question, that's argumentative.
Or we could just go through slide by slide.
Overruled, continue.
Is there?
Maybe Harry's starting to get
These
annoyed.
contracts were
Judge Harry.
dated after the date that Michael Cochran collapsed on February 6th. So this is a continuation of these illegal business operations, the investment, the Ponzi scheme we've spoken about. This is a continuation of those after Michael's not available.
It's fine for sure. Please.
This will be state exhibit number 38, Your Honor.
Very well.
South of these. This is one. You give that back. Take this. Anyone's been marked for identification is states 38, please. Recognize that?
I do. I do.
What is it?
Which number is it? For the,
Yes, yeah. 22, 23, 10, 13, 14, 16, 19, 20, 21.
okay, so now we're looking at 10.
Keep in mind, y'all,
Collectively at the moment.
this was disclosed to the defense in discovery. So even though they're saying that they haven't seen these before, they were provided with them for
All
the state.
available, but exhibits.
It's
10
not
through
like they're being
23.
ambushed by the
Tab
state
10
right
through
now.
23, what is that?
These are all text messages specifically between Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran, ranging from August of 2018 to February 5th of 2019.
5th or 6th?
These end on the 5th,
So the day
February 5th
before.
of 2019.
This is page 2 of number 11. Who's that to and from?
This text message block is Natalie Cochran's text message that she has sent to Michael Cochran.
Do those numbers mean anything to you?
These are dollar amounts that she has told Michael are owed to them and their business for contract, government contracts that they have sold or obtained, been awarded, be the correct term. She's,
I'm sorry. Can you go with that one?
you want me to finish, Mr. Truman?
Please, yes.
The date of this text was on August 27th. And with these dollar amounts, she's provided other dates in which these dollar amounts would be posting. The very first entry, 3.45 million, should post tonight at midnight. That would be on August 27th. And then there's timestamps applied to the other amounts in those texts.
13. And this one from October 25th of 18.
This is a text from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran where she's talking about getting off the phone with government entities and that the audit, which was presented as a reason why none of the contracts could be paid out, she is telling him at this time that the audit is complete. There's some additional administrative stuff that needs to take place, and that all monies from all those contracts that he believed were being awarded and due will be available by Monday, October 29th.
You heard young Mr. Cochran testify about a 50 caliber contract, did you not?
I did.
This is number 14. And this is again a text. You recognize the phone numbers to where that text is coming from?
Yes, that's Natalie Cochran's phone number.
And is that the only 50 caliber order in your investigation that you saw, or were there others?
That is the only one. This was a reference to a text again to Michael about that 50 caliber government contract order, where she is telling Michael that they, being whatever entity the contract was fulfilled with, want to double that 50 caliber order, and it would cost them $244 million. And yield a return of $378 million.
Oh my God.
Nineteen. This one from January 30th, 2019. Who is that one from at 334?
Again, this text is from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran. In this text, this is following the government shutdown, to put it in context. And she is telling Michael that they have all the money being resent tomorrow, and they should be available to them by Monday at the latest. And then the feds will begin sending money on Monday. This was dated January 30th of 2019. February 1st was the date that the investors had been told that the monies would be released post government shutdown.
There's one from the 31st.
This is, again, a text from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran, where she is telling him that she is on the phone with the Bank of America. And this is in reference to the monies that were supposedly inbound. And that's why she's talking with Bank of America.
I'm going to object for lack of personal knowledge.
All right, that's fair. Sustained.
As part of your investigation, did you download records indicating when the defendant was using her cell phone to make phone calls?
Wait, I want to
Yes.
see what they.
Did you compare the text messaging with the downloads to see if in fact she was on the bank phone with the bank?
Sorry.
That the monies would be released post government shutdown.
There's one from the 31st.
This is, again, a text from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran, where she is telling him that she is on the phone with the Bank of America. And this is in reference to the monies that were supposedly inbound. And that's why she's talking with Bank of America.
I'm going to
Okay,
object
that's
for lack
fair.
of personal knowledge.
That's fair. He can testify to like what she's saying or doing, but
All right,
like,
that's
not
fair.
the reason
Sustained.
he's doing it. He wouldn't have personal knowledge of
As
the
part of your
witness.
investigation,
Wouldn't have
did
personal
you
knowledge of why
download
she's doing
records
that.
indicating when the defendant was using her cell phone to make phone calls?
Yes.
Did you compare the text messaging with the downloads to see if in fact she was on the bank phone with the bank?
There were instances where she claimed to be on the phone and she wasn't. And there were instances where
I'm going to object to such broad. I would.
Okay,
Tom's just like, I'm getting my point across. Never mind.
21. What's DFAS?
DFAS is the Defense Finance Accounting Service. It's a federal government entity that deals with defense finance.
And 2 days before Michael
Oh my God,
collapsed,
she's insane. She made up
there's a
a Federal
reference
Reserve employee.
the organization you just mentioned.
Ah!
Who's Betsy?
Betsy
Brit-
was earlier referenced in testimony to Betsy Britland. Betsy was a character created by Natalie Cochran to be a government employee that she communicated with regarding government contracts on the regular. She would ask,
On the regular.
or when asked about contracts, she had told Michael that her point of contact was Betsy Britland with DFAS or the U.S. Treasury.
That's not in the exhibit. The witness is testifying from some other unidentified documents.
Not unidentified. The judge took judicial notice
Go
of
ahead.
the judgment in the federal criminal case. And that stuff was in there in her plea
So
agreement. So
Betsy Britland, who did not exist, this is a reference to Natalie claiming to have spoken with Betsy regarding the contract
Like,
and the whereabouts
how
of the award
embarrassing.
money that should be coming to the contracts. And this text is again to Michael Cochran.
22. And on 2/4 at 3:01, 2/4/19 at 3:01.
Again, this again is a text message from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran, assuring him that all 4 wire transfers and money deposits were en route and that they potentially could show up that day on February the 4th. And she references 4.8 regarding millions of dollars that should arrive in the morning and 23.8
Where are his
million
responses?
tomorrow, the next day at some time.
I know they couldn't get into his phone, but
From your review of the text messages between the defendant and Michael Cochran, the defendant and Wendy Potee, the defendant and the Davises, the defendant and Stephanie Hamilton, is there a pattern
I'm sitting
emerging?
here talking to myself. But I
Yes,
thought I
there
could do
was.
this to practice.
It was always deception to all of those parties, was it not?
Judge, now the prosecutor is testifying. I object.
Fair point.
Sustained.
The text
God,
messages that
Stanley.
we've reviewed in
Stanley's
summary
gone.
fashion, did they indicate a pattern to you?
They did.
What is that?
That Michael Cochran was being told the exact same information that the investors were being told. Those were relying on money to be paid back to them. The information that was given to them is the exact information that was being given to Michael.
He didn't really
Cochran.
know the extent of it either.
And that all derived from the defendant, correct?
Yes.
Could I have just a moment, please?
Sure.
She's so smug, but then that's what narcissists, that's how they are, right? Look at mommy back there, mommy and daddy. Sorry. Larry and Daphne.
It was also referenced
Enabling.
in the defense case to Michael utilizing the defendant's phone and sending messages of the guys that it was her sending them. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oops, I need another marker.
Wait, what? Michael. Oh, right.
This
Yeah.
is State's Exhibit number 39, Your Honor.
All right.
So smug. I'm not going to get convicted.
Thank
God, man. Evil.
Anyone's been marked for identification is State's 39. If you could identify that.
You want me to identify?
What?
Yes. This is a photograph of a text message from the cell phone of Matt McCormick. It's a text message stream between Matt McCormick and Michael Cochran.
What time is the text message from Michael Cochran?
Who's Matt McCormick?
There are 2 dates here. Do you want,
The second one.
on February 6th at 1:39 p.m., there is a text message that was sent from,
Object to this. This has nothing to do with my client's statement.
You don't
This is
know.
hearsay.
I haven't said it yet.
We don't think so.
This is a statement between 2 third parties. One is dead, the other one is a third party.
Care to respond, Mr. Driven?
Yes, sir. This is a text from Michael Cochran's phone when all the evidence says Michael Cochran was totally unconscious and lying on a couch.
I'll allow. Overruled. Go ahead.
Under what?
this is a text message at 1:39 p.m. from Michael Cochran's phone to Matt McCormick's phone, in which he is telling Mr. McCormick that he would be available to see him in a few days, reference a firearms transaction.
From your investigation and from all the evidence to date, is there any possible way that Michael Cochran could have sent that text?
No, not at 1:39 p.m.
Yes, she
Why
had
not?
just sent the picture.
We have a timestamped photograph taken by Natalie Cochran approximately
At
12:30 of Michael
Yeah.
Cochran laying on the floor at their residence. And then soon after, we have witness testimony of individuals at their house with him in his unresponsive state during that time frame.
Your Honor, at this point, the state moves into evidence. Can't remember the numbers. Is it 37, 8, and 9?
37, 38, 39.
Please.
And I'll preserve the defense objections previously made. Are there further objections that you wish to place on the?
And then soon after, we have witness testimony of individuals at their house. With him in his unresponsive state during that time frame.
And look, he was gonna have to meet him, or
Your
this
Honor,
Matt
at
guy
this
wanted
point,
to
the
meet
state
him.
moves into evidence. Can't remember the numbers. Is it 37, 8, and 9?
37, 38, 39.
Please.
And I'll preserve the defense objections previously made. Are there further objections that you wish to place on the record?
Now, Your Honor, to all of which I do object.
All right, I'm going to admit states exhibits 37, 38, and 39 over the defense objections.
Your Honor, the state has no further questions.
All right, cross-examination,
God.
Mr. Victor.
It speaks for itself, buddy. Just let it go.
Mr. Heinzman, the purpose of your testimony here today is to demonstrate that Michael Cochran, and this is an old story, was duped by my client, Natalie Cochran, and didn't know anything about these contracts, right?
Yes.
Now. And for that matter, the other message there that you are telling the jury about is that Natalie Cochran was involved in the illicit business of contracts. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Would you agree with me, sir, that throughout this trial, as you were sitting here, we have conceded that Natalie Cochran was a bad girl and she was dealing in those federal contracts?
That's not what he's getting to. This
Did we
goes
concede
to
it or not?
Michael's knowledge of it.
Did you concede to it? I don't know who he is.
This
Listen
guy's a
carefully.
lawyer on top of being
Is it
former
true
law
that
enforcement.
Natalie Cochran has
Heinzman.
conceded that she was involved in the fraudulent scheme?
Yes, she
So
did.
that shouldn't be any surprise for you when you look at all these documents.
Yeah, but these documents aren't going to prove
That
she's a
is
bad person.
involved in these transactions.
The purpose of my testimony was to illustrate that Michael Cochran was
Knew-
not involved.
Was
in
not
this.
involved and knew about it.
Michael Cochran wasn't involved in it. All right,
She's the one running the show.
I'm going to ask you,
Look at old Daphne back there. Look at her. What you get for
Looking
raising
at-
a liar?
one of the examples. Yeah.
She learned it somewhere.
I do not recall which number it was. I think it's somewhere around 5 or 6. But you testified about this document, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
That document was telling you that on August the 30th, and I presume 2018, $1.2 million was going to be posted, right? See it there?
On August 30th, yes.
Yeah. Posted in the account of Mr. and Mrs. Cochran, right?
Yes.
Then on September the 4th, I'm sorry, the 3rd, $724,000 was going to be posted. May not be the 3rd because it's gonna be a holiday, but it was gonna be posted in the Cochran's account, right?
Yes.
And then $2.56 million next Friday was gonna be posted in their account, right?
Yes.
Well, comes August 28th, no money in the account, right?
Correct.
Comes August 29th, no money in the account.
Correct.
Comes the end of September, no money in the account, right? Right?
Yes.
Yes. Well, that $2.6 million next Friday, so that's probably sometime, I don't know, sometime at the beginning of September, right? No $2.6 million coming.
Correct.
And Mr. Cochran doesn't know that.
Look at him.
He's waiting
Mr.
for,
Heisman's looking at him.
he's waiting for about $4 million, right? Right?
What? What are you talking
The
about?
last date put out on these is December, so between August 27th and December, it was over $300 million that he was.
I asked you about these numbers, 300,000, $1.2 million, $724,000, $2.6 million. There's nothing about December, there, is there?
December 21st on the next one down. 12/21, $131 million on 12/21.
I didn't ask you about that. I asked you about the top,
Okay,
the exhibit. There's about $4 million coming to Michael Cochran, to his account, right?
to the business. Yes,
So the business where Michael Cochran is a minority owner,
no,
now? To the business where he has a joint account, right? Yes, sir, yes or no?
yes,
Yes. $4 million coming to my account, and I don't know anything about it?
that is correct.
Yeah.
He knows what's been told to him here.
Okay.
By his
but
wife.
Fine. Then let me ask you this. We are now at the beginning of October. That $4 million didn't materialize itself. He is not asking questions, is he?
He absolutely is.
We can't
The
see
defendant
it.
Produced an audit,
Show me in
Ruth.
any of these documents, sir.
Ruth.
Show me
Let
any
him
of these
finish.
documents, these exhibits. When he is asking any questions about where is that $4 million?
We
Where
have,
is that $4 million? Show me any
Too
of these documents
confrontational.
here that were admitted into the evidence, not some stuff about we did our investigation. Show me in any of these documents.
if you'll hand the documents back, I'll review them to see if I can find that.
You can review them all you want.
But I know that throughout the text messages were reviewed, 1,224 pages of text messages, or
I don't care about.
numerous times that Mr. Cochran asked where the money was.
Mr. Heisman, there's no question pending. I'm asking you to show this jury from these documents that Michael somehow is not surprised that the $4 million that was supposed to come to him at the beginning of September is not there. Show me.
He had been told
Show the
it
jury.
wasn't coming because of an
No,
audit.
No, sir. You look at these documents, show me if there is anything in these documents that indicate that Michael Cochran is or is not surprised by not getting $4 million.
Your Honor, do you may take the time to review all these documents?
The state probably should object here.
Go ahead, Mr. Heisman.
I'll move quickly.
All right.
I feel
And
they're
I'm
kind of
looking
like leaving,
specifically
hanging them out to dry.
for-
The state is a little bit like, why did he not
Where
object?
is that $4 million that was supposed to come in September?
Would you restate your question?
Well, show me in any of these documents when Michael Cochran is asking Natalie or anybody for that matter, where is that $4 million or, well, 300,000, 3.4, well, there's more than that. 300,000, $1.2 million, $724,000, and $2.56 million. Where is it? It was supposed to be deposited. Now it's September, it's October, it's November. Where on earth is that money? Show me any of these documents indicating his inquiry about that.
Okay, on page 19, he's
Oh, no.
referencing the 1.6 million, having to wait for that. On
Okay.
page 20, when she says she's on the phone with Bank of America, he's asking, are we 1,000%? Because she's told him at that point that the money is at Bank of America.
Okay.
On page 21, he says, this is February 4th, the day that 3 days after he expected the money, he tells her that the money isn't there. She provides additional excuses for that. And then on page 22, dated February 4th again, she's telling him that the 88 million and 297 million will possibly show up today.
Not she's telling him.
4.8 million in the morning and 23.8 tomorrow. Again, another delay, and his response is shit.
Okay.
The rest of the documents.
Hold on. Show me when there is gonna be $108 million to be deposited in the account on October the 12th,
It's right there on August 27th on the text that's being provided.
and $131 million to be deposited in November and in December.
Yes, it's right there on the text.
And he doesn't know that this money ain't there?
No, he does. He believes this money is coming. What's significant about August
Now, I
27th?
didn't ask you, do you
He's
see?
being
I can
belligerent now.
explain.
Hold on, sir. Are you seriously contending
Poor
before the jury
Heisman.
that he doesn't know that that $239 million is not there?
I'm telling
Yes or no,
the
sir?
jury that
Yes or
Michael
no?
Cochran does not know.
Yes or no,
He
Your
believes
Honor?
that money is
Your
coming.
Honor, I'm sorry. Say yes or no.
Well, he's trying to explain, and I think we should let the witness
Answer.
explain his answer. Go ahead, Mr. Heinzman.
Michael Cochran has been led to believe that all this money is coming to their
She's
account
going
for
down after
government
this. That's what I
contracts,
think.
and it never comes.
And I presume that in September, October, November, December, and January, he lives in the same household as Natalie Cochran, right?
He does, yes.
He certainly doesn't live on another planet. He can talk to Natalie Cochran about these contracts on a daily basis. He can talk to her, can he not?
Yeah, he does.
And he does. And he, on August 20, whenever, September, honey, where is that 8 million or $4 million? And she's lying to him, right? Is that your testimony?
And she says, we're getting hit with an audit. Can you believe it?
On September
Oh,
5th,
gosh.
she's telling him, oh, no, that money is coming, right? On September 6th, 7th, 8th, 30th, October, he is somehow duped by it, and he's so blind to it that he will not ask his wife, where is $238 million? And he naively and blindly believes that this money is gonna be there and it ain't there? Is that what you're testifying to, Detective?
Absolutely.
Good job, Heinzman.
Show me, there's nothing in these documents that talks about Michael's computer, is there? Michael
Not in these
arranging
documents.
for these contracts on his computer as he's sitting in the bedroom while Natalie is watching TV and the kid is between them. Those documents don't deal with any computer operations of Michael Cochran, right?
No, they do not.
Okay. Those documents did not deal with any personal contacts that Michael Cochran had with the investors, including his own mother, correct?
These documents do not.
These documents do not deal with any checks that he wrote, as we saw in some of the exhibits here, on behalf of the companies, correct?
Correct.
For either services rendered or for consulting services, et cetera, right? These
Correct.
documents don't show that. These documents don't, well, these documents do not address any issues that, well, the detectives are coming and, maybe they should talk to the kids. Is there anything about that anywhere?
No, that wouldn't be anything like that.
All right. These documents, of course, do not deal, again, the same old story, with the lifestyle of the Cochrans, right?
These documents do not.
Honey, I'm taking you to Paris and I'm gonna get you a Louis Vuitton bag for God only knows how many thousands of dollars because we have somebody else's money.
Why you got to bring
to
Louis
live
into it?
high on a hub, right? These documents don't deal with this, do they?
Not that depiction, no.
No, not that depiction. Well, they don't talk about any of the wealth that the Cochrans, plural, acquired through the illegal schemes
I'm trying to catch up.
and enjoyed for a long time, right?
These documents do not.
These documents don't deal with anything about Michael Cochran's health. Honey, I feel bad today, I'm declining, or anything of that nature.
There are references to him being stressed because of the lack of money
He is stressed because he doesn't know.
in these documents. I'm referring to.
He's like in a National Enquirer. We want to know, right? He wants to know, right?
He wants to know where the money is that they've earned.
wants to know.
through what he believed was legitimately awarded government
Right.
contracts.
And yet he goes to a boat sale and buys himself 2 boats at the same time, right?
I don't know if he went to a boat sale. I know that he did purchase ATVs, boats, vehicles,
Right.
things of that nature that both he and his wife picked out based on text messages we read, or by her encouragement to make purchases because she had led him to believe that they
Sure,
helped.
she let me
Well-
believe. And you truly believe it.
Absolutely.
These documents do not show, these documents that deal with Natalie only, not Michael, whether he was copied on them. Do they?
Would you ask that again?
No, you look at any of these documents where Natalie is talking to Mr. Teet or Chris Davis, where Mr. Cochran is not involved. Is there any indication that he is copied on those conversations?
Some of them, yes.
Yeah. So some of this he knows, right?
Some of it, but
Yeah.
not in this context that you're
In
framing.
not in this context, of course. Okay. Now, when he talks on some of those messages, the jury will probably see that those conversations take place after Michael's death, right?
Yes.
So he cannot contract anything, Mr. Heinzman, because unfortunately he's passed away, right? Right?
Yes.
And Natalie Cochran is continuing the scheme that she was involved in, but it has nothing to do with what Michael knew and what he didn't know because he's dead, right?
No, it supports the fact that it was her scheme because she continued it on.
So, well,
Gotcha.
one of those exhibits, Michael asked, no, 16. Michael asked directly to pull out $9,500. From where?
From their personal account
To do what with it?
to have some cash on hand.
And that $9,500 came from where? They didn't have any income, independent income. It must have come from the investors.
That or rescue loans.
Well, is it possible that since they have no income independent income. You testified that Natalie wasn't working as a pharmacist anymore, and Michael's job was an IT man, not really defined, that he's pulling $9,500 in cash that must have come from the investors.
Yes,
So he pulls $9,500 that he considers money earned, right?
from previous contracts.
If
Yes,
he believes that, if he's so scrupulously honest, well, he must believe that this is the money that they've already earned on those contracts, right?
right. He's not aware that they're illicit proceeds. He thinks they're legitimate proceeds.
Right.
Right.
What does $9,500 tell you as an investigator of money laundering?
Well, that,
Cash, I'm going as 9,500 cash. What does that tell you? You're the expert here on money laundering.
sure. In this context, it means nothing. In the context that you're framing it, it references currency transaction reports. Those are a federal requirement under the Bank Secrecy Act.
Well, let me ask you this.
Let him finish.
Well, I'll ask a very specific question.
Well, the witness should be permitted to answer. Go
Explain
ahead.
the $10,000 cash.
The Bank Secrecy Act requires financial institutions to file what's called a currency transaction report for any transaction involving $10,000 of U.S. currency that be cash or coin in or out of a financial institution. It's a derivative of the Patriot Act in the war on terrorism. So they want to
That's
track
why
large
if you
amounts of cash. So
make a transaction of
if
over
a
$10,000,
withdrawal from a
the
financial
bank has
institution were to
to
occur above
report it.
$10,000, the bank would be required to complete a currency transaction report and document that transaction.
Right.
In this case, however,
Well, I'm
the
sorry.
Cochran
Now
said
that-
cash.
Let
I'm sorry,
him
Your Honor.
finish.
Okay.
Now the question is this.
Fair enough. He's answered the question. Go ahead, Mr. Baker.
$9,500 in cash is obviously under 10 grand, right?
It is,
And he withdraws that amount of money in cash.
yes.
Would you agree with me that he does that for the purpose to avoid the $10,000 money reporting necessity?
No, it would not.
No?
That's not illegal. It's not an illegal act. It's when that is anything, 10,000 or more.
Right.
Is taken out in multiple increments over a short period of time. That would then trigger what's called a suspicious activity report.
Right.
With the bank that ties back into the currency transaction.
And
So
that's why,
that amount alone is not illegal.
and that's why he's taking $9,500 rather than 10,000, because he would have to report it to the IRS.
Your Honor, that's speculation. There's no way the
Wow.
witness could read. the
Sit down.
All right.
Sit down, penguin.
What about those income tax returns that the parties
She
filed
faked
jointly?
them.
Those were prepared by Natalie Cochran. They were false documents.
They were false documents.
Yes.
And he signed off on them.
There was no signature of Michael on the documents.
For 2017,
No, there was not.
2018,
No, there was not.
2019,
She signed
No,
on
it
his
was not.
behalf.
and you're telling this court that she filed taxes and he didn't know anything about the income tax returns.
That's correct.
So he himself broke the law by not filing income tax.
If he had known what was being filed,
If he had known, he would have filed taxes.
no, if he had known what was being filed,
Okay. So he didn't have to sign the income tax return because his income was zero? Why didn't he have to file income tax return with Natalie?
I'm not saying he didn't have to,
Why didn't he sign those?
because they're done electronically now. You don't even have to sign them. One person can
Yeah,
fill them out,
that's
file them
right.
electronically. He doesn't have to sign it. Now, the law requires that all tax preparers review their documents that they're filing, but
And he reviewed them and he had absolutely no idea what Natalie was doing with the taxes and with the bank losses and with, well, the business losses, the business gains, et cetera, et cetera.
My,
I have
yeah.
no idea if he reviewed them. If he had, he would further believe that he had made an extraordinary amount of money. on
Show me-
contract.
Show me here any income tax return that lists about $4 million
What is it? This is
by
out
the
of control.
Cochrans. Can you do that? Can you show this jury? Any-
No, I cannot. I don't have the discovery files and records with me. I to break
From
out,
your-
Poor
to
guy.
break out the tax returns that we did recover.
From your thorough investigation of this case, because you said that several
This
times.
is like his favorite line.
uh,
Thorough investigation
there
of the
ever-
case.
an income tax return filed by the Cochrans that would list $239 million.
There is such a
Can you
thing
tell the
as
jury that
this is not financial
I
or
know
legal
that there
advice.
are tax documents that were given as ruses to get bank loans.
from your memory, Mr. Heinz,
But I cannot say if that figure that Mr. Victor has given me matches those documents.
$239 million, would that raise some red flags if you ever saw an income tax return from a small West Virginia company filed with the Internal Revenue Service? Would that cause you to
He probably didn't
pause
see it.
and consider that?
He probably trusted her.
In what context?
Well, somebody's making $239 million from a business and files that income tax return. I would like to know the details of.
Are you talking about the IRS would want to know the details, or?
Well, you were investigating their.
I've already answered that question. If I saw that, it's another prop. It's a ruse. It's not unsubstantiated by financial records, income records, state databases, federal databases. It would just, to me, that if I saw that,
So you have
it would
no
be another
idea.
prop.
So you have no idea as you sit here today to tell this jury how much money Mr. and Mrs. Cochran were making and how much money they were reporting. True? As you sit here right now. Can you or can you not?
It's a very broad question.
Well, how much money did they make in 2018? Can you tell this jury whether they made millions or whether they made a couple of $1,000s here and there?
2018.
Yeah.
Are we talking about legal income or illegal income?
Income tax return. Remember?
The income tax returns that we reviewed were submitted not to the IRS because that would have got red flags, but to whether they wanted to borrow money for to demonstrate the
Yeah,
value of the
using
company.
them for their
So
loan
now you're telling us
application.
that Natalie didn't file income tax in 2018?
My recollection was that there had not been income taxes. No, let me correct that. The income tax documents that we recovered had been doctored to show greater income because they were used for other purposes. The actual income tax that was filed,
Didn't match.
which was
Which
presumably
begs
would
the
have been
question,
legitimate.
have
we
they
did not
gotten
review.
her on filing a
No.
fraudulent tax? Well, she technically didn't though.
No. Okay. If I may have a second. I don't think I have any more questions of the flip one.
All right, direct Mr. Truman.
From the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very well.
Mm,
Mr. Huntsman, you may step down, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Copies or exhibits?
I think we've got the exhibits spread all around. Let's make sure that we collect them. Give everything to the clerk and she can sort them.
38. We got me, Your Honor.
Okay,
It's part of, it fell off. It fell off.
If it's a copy, no, I don't need it.
This fell out here. It's part 38.
that being inquired, Mr. Truman, will there be further witnesses in rebuttal?
Your Honor, the state rep.
All right, will the defense have any rebuttal evidence?
oh God, please don't. Is she gonna testify?
Certainly.
That would be hilarious.
The defense rests like this.
All right,
Good
members of the
God.
jury, you've heard it from the lawyers themselves. This is the completion of all the evidence to be presented before you. The next phase of the case will be the instructions of the law by the court. I will read the instructions to you. That's one thing that we have been working on to try to get a leg up and get ahead of the game, so to speak. We've pretty much settled on the instructions, and so we should be ready to go this afternoon. We've worked into the traditional lunch hour, and so be back in your jury room at 1:30. That'll give you a little extra time for lunch. We will commence hopefully with the instructions at that time and argument of counsel thereafter. So although we are winding down, and although we have completed the presentation of the evidence before you, the case is not over. It would be improper for you to discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else at this time. Please enjoy your lunch. Do not do any research. Do not read anything online in the newspaper or on TV, and be back, please, in your jury room a little bit before 1:30. You may get with the bailiff now to your jury room.
Let's see if they have any thing they talk about after the jury leaves. What I'm trying to figure out is when the judge and the attorneys were going through the jury instructions, they...
All right, Mr. Truman, I'm hopeful that you can have a working lunch and maybe go through the charge while you eat your sandwich.
I will take care of, yes, I'm on page 8.
Okay,
I'm done.
all right, thank you.
There's only been a couple little things to check on.
All right, maybe we can come back at 1:15, so we'll have 15 minutes to make any corrections.
I think that should do it.
All right, and then we can start out on time. I don't want to delay the jury anymore if we can help it. Is there anything further on behalf of the dissents that we need to discuss?
No, Your Honor.
All right,
They're
we'll
like,
break for lunch, and if you
"Peace,
can,
we're
be
done."
back at 1:15 so we can take up the instructions further.
Okay, so during lunch, I'm going to try and figure out why so the indictment, I wonder if I'm still sharing my screen. The indictment is for murder 1, so first degree murder, and doesn't explicitly include voluntary manslaughter. And when the judge and the attorneys were discussing the jury instructions this morning, they referred to an instruction about, I think, voluntary and involuntary manslaughter. And so I don't know, you often like hear people talk about lesser included offenses, and in some states those are lesser included charges under like a murder 1 charge that the jury could then find them guilty of the lesser included. Like we saw that in the Karen Reed case, if you recall. And so people get really bored with jury instructions, but the reality is that words really matter, and the jury instructions are, in theory, crucial. In theory, one of the most important parts of the case. Now, when you have jurors who don't understand or disregard, and I'm not disparaging jurors, I'm just saying I think what I'm noticing across the board is generally in criminal cases, jurors have a hard time understanding the concept of reasonable doubt and what they are, the standard that they're supposed to be applying to the evidence. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can figure out why they didn't include voluntary or involuntary manslaughter in the original indictment the grand jury returned. I may just go ask my husband, because he used to be a former he's a former prosecutor. So like it might be that they don't have to do that, and they can address it in as part of the jury instructions. I'm getting the sense that that's what the deal is, but we go check on that. The other thing I was going to point out in my like real life world of doing tax work, there's this thing called, this is not tax advice and this is not legal advice, not financial advice, but an innocent spouse defense. Because sometimes, like in this case, it seems like Natalie did their taxes and or had them done. She prepared the returns, presumably. And like, you know, the other spouse may just trust that their spouse is doing the correct thing and filing them accurately. And in this case, Natalie, I think, I mean, who knows, but like the income that she reported on their actual filed tax return may very well have been accurate. She doctored the tax returns from the evidence we've heard after they were filed, assuming they filed them, to obtain loans. So she didn't submit, presumably, fraudulent tax returns to the IRS. She just doctored the documents to present to financial institutions and maybe investors, but I think just the bank. And so what I was going to say is there's an innocent spouse relief for doctrine for that the IRS and Treasury provide for spouses who are unaware of illegal behavior on the part of their spouse when it comes to declaring their income, filing their taxes, etc. I mean, Michael died before this came to light, the fraud and this scheme, but you know, he could have if he had not passed away. I'm just raising this as an issue. The defense attorney kept saying like, oh, well, why did he sign it? You know, why did he file these returns? Well, the reality is, like Mr. Heinzman said, most returns these days are filed electronically. And so he might not even have reviewed it. He could, in theory, never have even seen it before she filed it. I mean, I don't think that that's a stretch. I think that probably happens a lot. And then what was the other thing? Oh, I just wanted to point out again, the evidence that came on in rebuttal, it's not the state's case in chief, but they're entitled to put on the rebuttal evidence. And I'm a little curious as to why they didn't offer some of it before, particularly some of Michael's responses. I'm trying to think through whether, I suppose they were not offering them because the defense would say it was hearsay. They made a lot of stipulations up front in a pretrial order to authenticity of evidence, chain of custody of evidence. And so if you'll notice, there was not tons of foundational testimony given when each side offered evidence or offered documents into evidence. Presumably because they stipulated to the authenticity ahead of time. There's an order in the file in the state in the criminal case about this. I do think that presenting some of the evidence about Michael's responses would have been helpful earlier on. So I'm just trying to think through why they didn't do that. If it was strategic, if they thought, oh, it's hearsay, or if there would have been some exception to hearsay. I did not hear. I think maybe at one point the defense attorney raised a hearsay argument to something they were saying Michael said. Maybe it was the text to the Matt McCormick guy. But they had to tread lightly a bit with offering in evidence of the financial crime because of the 404B hearing. But they had a fair amount of leeway based on the judge's order. And I think they generally stuck to that. And they put Heinzman back up to refute the kids' testimony that Natalie was not involved in the business. And so when Heinzman was putting on this evidence, the defense attorney kept saying, oh, you're just trying to show that my client's a bad person, a bad girl. I don't like it when he says that. It weirds me out, quite honestly. But Mr. Heinzman properly responded, no, I'm offering this testimony to show that Michael was not aware of the extent of this fraud and this scheme. And he thought there was money coming, and she kept, making excuses and coming up with other reasons why it hadn't arrived. And so he wasn't offering it to show that she's a bad person. He was offering it to show Michael's state of mind, which goes to motive for Natalie because he was catching on to the extent of it. So anyway, thanks for hanging with me. I think Lawyer Lee's doing a lunchtime live now on this, so I'm going to switch over and watch that. I'm going to drop the live stream for a bit, and I may try and do more of this in the future, but bear with me as I'm practicing my YouTube skills. All right, y'all. Have a good lunch. Bye.